All right, here we go. Back again with the RTI Instant Reaction Show. Rick Butler here in Knoxville, and Ryan Shumpert is right there in the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. Had an up close and personal view for the game as Tennessee defeats Texas by a score of 74-70 in Austin. Ryan, man, we talked about it throughout the week. We talked about it on the Florida postgame show. We talked about it during the press pass in the middle of the week. Yes, Tennessee had a bad blowout loss against Florida on Tuesday, but they couldn't let it spiral into an 0-2 week. Well, after a 40-minute back-and-forth battle against Texas, Tennessee comes away with a nice, resilient, gutsy win. What was your perspective? Again, being there live and in person, just how did you see this game unfold there for Tennessee?
I think what you said is pretty accurate. A gutsy, kind of a gritty grind type of win. In a lot of ways, it felt like the Illinois game to me. Obviously, Tennessee didn't have the foul trouble that they had in the Illinois game, but it just Tennessee was down, and for a lot of the second half, Tennessee's up two at halftime. Texas took the lead pretty quickly, and they held on to that lead for a long time. And it was Trey Johnson who was just on fire for Texas. I mean, he was fantastic, knocking down a bunch of hard shots. And then on a night where Tennessee, not really any one player was playing particularly well offensively, it just felt like it was going to be tough for them to keep up. And they just kind of found a way to keep the game close, stay in it. And Trey Johnson finally missed some shots. Texas, I thought, kind of went away from them more than they should have. And then on the other side, Zakai Ziegler had some big buckets. D-Stone Dubar was phenomenal. We'll talk more about him. He was huge for Tennessee. And Tennessee just in really the closing minutes of the game, found a way to steal one in Austin, and like you said, on a game they really needed to have it after a bad, well, not a bad loss, but a very lopsided loss to a good Florida team earlier in the week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, we talked about it that Tennessee wasn't going to have the advantage of coming back to a Food City Center with a roaring crowd in their favor. They were going to have to go on the road. And not that Texas is a juggernaut in the SEC, but they're a good program, certainly nonetheless. Tennessee had to go in there and figure out how to deal with that adversity throughout the week, again, on the road, in an environment that means something off the court to this program as well. Maybe not to the program as a whole, but certainly Rick Barnes, as you saw and as you posted as a video into a video on Twitter. Another thing I think about when I think about this game is, man, it took some resiliency. This was a game of runs at a lot of points. A
It
5-0
was,
run
yeah,
here, a 7-0 run here. I remember a 13-2 run from Texas at one point. But that also shows just, again, the resiliency that Tennessee had to be able to stick in the game, to be able to fight in the game, and then again, to be able to have themselves in a position where, as you mentioned, they can be there in those final 3 minutes. They can hit a couple big shots, and then they can rely on their seniors and their defense. Again, Trey Johnson was phenomenal tonight, but really sort of, I don't want to say completely disappeared, but lost a lot of the spark that he had scoring in the third quarter-ish, if you will. And Tennessee was able to just come back and put together a really nice close to the game to keep Texas at an arm's length away. Obviously, they did play the free throw game a little bit, but they held them at an arm's length away.
for sure. And I think that's all very accurate. And look, Trey Johnson made a lot of hard shots. I thought Trayvon Mack made some hard shots. Like Texas hit. It was an ode to Rick Barnes, because it was like a Rick Barnes of a 6 years ago dream life of the amount of contested mid range jump shots that Texas hit in this game. Um, defying the analytics and all that good stuff. And you talk about the runs. I thought the sequence of the game, and there was a number of big ones, but the big one, Tennessee's up by three. Um, they went on a 5-0 run. Dubar hit the three to take the lead, and Felix Okpara had a dunk, I believe, on an offensive rebound. And then we went to the under four timeout, which was like right around 3 minutes left. Texas was shooting the bonus. They missed the front end, and Jordan Gainey came on the other end, hit a triple on that next possession that put Tennessee up by six. That kind of felt like the swing. And Texas, they scored 3 points after that, and uh, Zakai had a big tough layup as the shot clock expired right at about the 1 minute mark that put the game from 3 to 5, and really gave Tennessee the distance. But um, right there in closing time in the final 3 minutes, Tennessee found a way to get one of those big runs. Really, their only run of the second half. There were a couple in the first half. Really, their only run in the second half. And like you said, they shot their free throws well enough. Even though Texas hit some shots, they were able to hold on. Tough one for the betters. Anybody that had the Vols out there, a brutal one, a brutal beat there at the end. With Jordan Gainey shooting two free throws up six with like 19 seconds
Yeah.
left, and Tennessee doesn't cover 4.5, which I think is what that line ended up at today. So, but nonetheless, a big win for Tennessee, and obviously that's a whole lot more important than the spread.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad that you brought up that Gainey play because there were a couple moments in that game where I was just thinking to myself, man, nobody is really super consistent from 3-point range right now, at least on a multiple shots basis. It'd be really nice if Jordan Gainey could give them a spark from the perimeter. I had that thought a couple of times throughout the game, and then certainly, like you had mentioned, he hits it in a huge moment within the waning minutes of the game. Let's keep talking about some of the individual performances here from this game in Austin. Zakai Ziegler leads the team with 16 points. He also puts up 8 assists. He was tremendous, had 11 points in the second half alone. Again, he was the leader that Tennessee needed him to be. But we've talked about Zakai Ziegler a lot lately. And again, not that we shouldn't be talking about him here. Maybe you have a couple of thoughts. But I thought the two X factors of the game, and I'm sure you agree, were Felix Okpara and Darlington Dubar for different reasons. D-Stone Dubar coming in and hitting 3 3-pointers and then having a ferocious slam.
Yeah,
I can't remember if it was a putback slam or not, but he rattled the
it
rim with that
was.
one. That certainly gave Tennessee a little bit of momentum. And then Felix Okpara just putting together a physical presence down low, able to give Tennessee a little bit of protection around the rim. I don't know. I can look at the stats here in a second, but he had a couple blocks. He had a couple nice plays, a couple of contested shots at the rim. I believe they combined for 19 points and 15 rebounds. That's a really nice X factor for Tennessee, especially on the road in a challenging back and forth game like that, where you don't always know where those points are going to come from. D-Stone Dubar hitting a trio of threes, man, that's a nice place to get points from.
Entering tonight, he hadn't had a multi three-pointer game all season, and look, this is a guy that came in and that was what he was more than anything known for at Hofstra was hitting threes, and Tennessee needed tonight. I mean, it was huge, and to me, he just played with a confidence and played more free on the offensive end of the court. Um, and look, there have been times this year where you watch him out there and it feels like he's not totally sure what he's supposed to be doing or what Tennessee's doing offensively. Um, he did, and with that, off usually comes a lack of confidence. But tonight he just played confident. He hit some big shots. He had a big offensive rebound and ended up getting fouled on. I think he went 1 and 2 at the line there, but he was huge. Tennessee doesn't win this game without him. And I mean, you talk about a team that's this thin. He's the eighth guy. He's the clear eighth guy right now. Tennessee needs to get more out of him. Tennessee needs to be able to get 10 to 12 minutes a night from him. And he was really, really good in 17 minutes tonight. And I'll say his role could be even bigger because now for the second straight game and the third time in Tennessee's last 4 games against the Power Five team, you've seen the opposing team's game plan be to leave Jeremiah Mashack wide open and dare him to shoot it. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just really thrown off Tennessee's spacing offensively. And I think that's going to be something they're going to continue to have to work through over the course of the season, figuring out what that looks like. And Jemai did some good things scoring at the rim tonight. But
Do you
that's
think, and sorry to cut you off, do you think that had anything to do and was maybe the primary reason for just Tennessee's turnover numbers? I mean, 15 in the game. Texas only turned the ball over 5 times. Do you see sort of that spacing issue as just why some of those, obviously some of them are mental errors, but do you see that being sort of an impact reason or maybe something else?
no, I definitely think that's part of it. I would say the two things I would, in addition to just like a couple of them, are just normal careless turnovers.
Right.
But specifically with this game, I think you had that, and I think you had a Texas team that is coached by a former Rick Barnes assistant. This is the fourth time in 4 seasons these two teams have played. And basically all those games, game in Knoxville was a little bit less, have been really low scoring, kind of gritty, grimy games. These two teams know what they're going to do, what the other teams are going to run on offense. You typically know that a little bit in SEC play just in general, but there's a lot more familiarity with it. So I think that led to Tennessee being in late shot clock situations a lot in the first half, when they kind of just had to be overly aggressive and force the issue. I think that led to some turnovers. But when you compound that with bad spacing, when you're trying to drive to the basket, that certainly makes it harder too. So I think that's definitely an aspect of it.
I want to give you a chance to get through your kind of final thoughts on the game, just what you see from the 30,000-foot view of this game. But I also want to get the perspective of you being there in person. I believe the only media member, the press row media member that was there to cover the game. Just how did you see Tennessee battle against the adversity? Obviously, this wasn't against a top 5 Kentucky team in Lexington. It certainly wasn't even maybe what they had up against Florida last Tuesday, but just with the way that the crowd was going, obviously they really picked up there towards the end of the game. How did you see Tennessee respond in that road environment? Something that was a big talking point throughout the week after that Florida game.
For sure, and I think it's a lot of just hanging in there throughout the game and just getting timely buckets. a lot of times it's big stops, but when Texas got hot there and halfway through the second half, that was a huge part of it. And look, I think one thing that stands out about this game is, Tennessee did with Chaz Lanier was not very good for a second straight timeout. He scores just 10 points, 3 of 11 shooting. Felt like it was just any shots for him were hard to get, hard to come by in this game, and then he did get a couple open ones late that he wasn't able to knock down. So when you consider that, and Tennessee having what ended up being a pretty solid offensive performance, I think it was a little over 1.2 points per possession in a low possession game. It was just the fact that everybody stepped up. Everybody that played for Tennessee tonight made between 2 or 4 baskets from the field. Everybody besides Cade Phillips made either 3 or 4 baskets from the field. So it was just such a balanced offensive performance, and especially in the second half. I mean, just looking at who played for Tennessee right now, we talked about Dubar having some big buckets at big times. Jordan Gainey hit that 3. We talked about Zakai had some big buckets at big times. And you could say the same with Felix Akbara, who had that big putback dunk. So I think that's maybe what's most impressive about it. Where last year in a lot of these games, it was Dalton Connect every time out. You just felt like he was going to keep Tennessee in it. And Tennessee's had some of that this year. A lot this year, they've been very reliant on Chaz and on Zakai and on Igor. But tonight, it was multiple guys stepped up, just to kind of get big buckets at big moments to calm down the home crowd and keep Tennessee in the game.
All right, Ryan, again, Tennessee picks up the win 74-70 in Austin. Any other kind of final thoughts that are on your mind that you want to get off your chest before I move into one quick non-basketball conversation as we wrap up this instant reaction show? Tennessee, I think, picks up their 15th win of the season. Is that correct? 15-1 now, 2-1 in SEC play?
That sounds right. They're 2-1 in SEC play.
Yes, I got that. I know I got that part.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I think 15. I think it was 14-0.
There you go. Any other 30,000-foot as you board an airplane tomorrow up there, 30,000 feet?
Yeah, maybe not quite 30,000 feet, but I'll get to something you led me into earlier and I never got to. It's just Felix Akbara on the defensive end. Like, he's been solid defensively this year, but what we saw tonight from him is what I was expecting more of and what I saw a lot and heard about a lot in Tennessee's practices this offseason and in the preseason. 3 blocks, one of them a vicious one, just altered a lot of shots at the rim. Tennessee's defense is obviously always really good, but if they get that Felix Akbara, I think it can take it to another level.
All right, my friend. Again, Tennessee avenges their loss from Tuesday night against Florida, comes back out on the road in Austin, Texas, and picks up a 74-70 win over Texas, a gritty, gutsy win for the Volunteers to jump back into the right side of the win column. Ryan, one more thing before we get out of here that I'm really excited about. Fortunately for us, this game is not too late into the night on Saturday. I think this video is going to get a pretty good amount of views. I want you to give people a good lead into what is coming out on RockyTopInsider.com tomorrow. Is there any kind of a tease that you can give us? I know you did on Twitter yesterday, but at least for me personally, this has been one of my most anticipated projects, certainly you've ever done, but just that I've seen in the Tennessee sports world for a while. This is really something terrific that you put together. Is there anything that you can kind of tease the people on so they can set their alarms, get ready tomorrow morning for something special that's coming out on RockyTopInsider.com?
Well, I can just kind of tell the general what it is the oral history story for the 15-year anniversary of the night Lane Kiffin left Tennessee for Southern Cal. Sunday, January 12th, being tomorrow. January 12th was a Tuesday in 2010, 15-year anniversary. So talked to the 13 different people, players, media, people that were Tennessee student, Max Parrott, who's an equipment guy for Tennessee, people that were in the building to kind of tell the story of that night. So a real long story, a fun one to do. Hope people enjoy it. Was a fun one to work on and should be out sometime. Maybe not. You don't have to set your alarms for it. I think everybody will be up. Planning on hitting it late morning as the church crowd gets out and I get back to Knoxville. So if you're listening to this, check it out. We'll be on Rocky Top Insider. We'll be on all socials. It would mean a lot if everybody would go read it.
And it's one of those things where it's, you think you know the story, and you probably do, but once you read through this, I mean, it's like 8,000 words, and most of it are quotes from people who are there on the scene. It's one of those things where you think you know the story, but after reading this, you really have a better understanding, not just on what happened, but the feelings and the emotions that went into it. It is such a phenomenal story. It is a revolutionary day in the history of Tennessee athletics, certainly Tennessee football. But Ryan really did a great job of putting together a great story here. A lot of the names I would imagine that people will look at and go, "Oh, I remember him. Oh, he was great." So certainly getting a kind of an interesting look back at some of those players who they haven't heard about in a while. So you did a phenomenal job with this. Again, be checking out RockyTopInsider.com tomorrow, Sunday, January 12th, for that story in oral history 15 years later of the day that Lane Kiffin left Tennessee for Southern Cal. It's going to be great. Share it with your friends as well. But Ryan, I know you got a busy night ahead of you, finishing up work there at the Moody Center and then getting back to your hotel as well. So safe travels, man, as you get back to Knoxville. It will certainly still be snow covered on the ground when you get
Yeah.
back in, but safe travels in.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words, and hoping I'll be able to get back to my apartment. Might have to take the long way around to South Knoxville tomorrow.
No. The roads are good. They did a great job with the roads. I'll give Knoxville a lot of credit for that. The roads have been fine. I was out driving all over the place today, so you'll be good. But
Some of those
plenty
roads
of
back
snow
by
on the
my
ground.
apartment, though, I don't know if I want to trifle with.
Now that could be true. That could be true. All right, my friend. Well, good luck with the rest of your work tonight. Again, thanks for joining us live from the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. That is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. Tennessee comes out of a win in Austin, Texas, with a 74-70 win over the Texas Longhorns. Rick Barnes moves to 3-1 over Texas during his time here at Tennessee. 4 straight meetings against the Longhorns, and now believe it is 2 straight wins over his former program. Again, that's Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. Thanks for listening to the RTI Instant Reaction Show. Be sure to check out the Lane Kiffin story on RockyTopInsider.com Sunday.